going to find himself getting passed by multiple cars, that makes him early on. So you're off in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. Doesn't qualify as well as he races. Only
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani, not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Haight deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
And I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately, isn't it? What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the down pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Ooh, Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And it definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Typical, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pite's pushed more and forward up ahead. He's got out of the line. It's now Pite going to have a go at Werrell. Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's come back into play. Exactly. Miller's just like dropping. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Moving on to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's allowed to have fun. Yeah. It's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is enjoying himself watching. And Burger King machines off into the grass a little bit there. Is that really bunching up now?
coming down.
Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it. Medeiros is going to
got it!
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's come back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such up. He's touched on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it! Big Barry!
Hello everyone and welcome along to JP Broadcasting and live coverage of round 3 of the iFormula Super Formula Series live from the virtual recreation of the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, which has been in operation since September of 1991. It has hosted the likes of the Formula 1 Spanish Grand Prix since its inaugural opening. It's also hosted the 1992 Summer Olympics. We're getting set for 44 laps of this iconic circuit, which has an altitude of 119 metres above sea level. And my name's Alex Goldschmidt. I'll be bringing along into the commentary box very, very shortly James Parfitt, who will be along with me for the entire duration. We're into the final throes of qualifying. But at the moment, it's Marian Barbiero that leads the way in the points for the pros on 58, just fractionally ahead of Hannes Schlegel in the number 90 with Maxwell Racing's Arturo Mayorga in the top 3. Tyler Gilbert and Eric Magnusson rounding out the top 2, level on points. As James, welcome along, and we're in the latter throes of qualifying.
Yes, we are, dear sir, and it's getting very, very interesting. We've seen a few frills and spills, haven't we, as such here as well. And we've got young Derek Miller out in front with Hannes Schlegel in second at the moment as well. Not too far about what's that, a quarter of a second behind him, 2 tenths behind him. So It should be a good one, I think, here as well. I think this is just a very mixed circuit. For some, it's fine. For others, it's not. And I don't really know how it's going to go here today, but let's hope it goes well.
Indeed. A quick catch up on the team standings. Intend Get Good Sim Racing currently have a total of 89 points. Intend Flat Out Sim Racing on 84. Lumos E Motorsports 78. Apollo Motorsports 73. With Biza Racing Team in 5th with 69 points. Derek Miller in the 56, fastest of anybody in the session, 1 minute 20.250. Hannes Schlegel, Tyler Gilbert rounding out the top 3. Very, very closely packed top 7 with Italy's Gianluca Iliano, nearly a 7.5 tenths of a second off the pace of our pole sitter as we ride on board with the number 90 from Intend Flat Out Racing. Austria's Hannes Schlegel as he is making his way through effectively turn 3 at Repsol. And you can see the curvature, and he locks up the brakes, 360 pirouettes, and that is his last attempt done and dusted because we've only got 20 seconds. There's James Millett with the high-vis Lumos E Motorsports number 9, currently running 4th in the session. He's making his way up towards Campsa, and then he's got a short run down through into La Caixa, which is the next corner coming up, and, well, he takes a bit of an off-track there. Not exactly what he wanted, but this just goes to show how quickly this circuit can change. Of course, the cars that we're using are the Super Formulas from 2023. 2-litre inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engines with around 550 brake horsepower using the Toyota derivative. And also they've got the 200 seconds worth of push to pass, which gives them that extra little power boost, which they can use throughout the majority of the race. But we are coming to the end of qualifying. There's Alexander Shanna in the number 45 car and Adrian Kullerside in the number 8, the Norwegian, off the circuit. And he's all the way down in 13th position. But still, James, after that qualifying session, all 14 competitors rounded out by the 61 of Frank Biza, covered by just over 1.5 seconds. So Super Formula is really going to showcase how quirky this circuit here is Barcelona. Of course, lap record set last year at the Spanish Grand Prix by none other than 3-time defending world champion Max Verstappen, 1:16.3. I think we're going to see lap times around about in the 120s, maybe as high as the 122s, because they are a very different animal, the Super Formula cars here on the iRacing service.
Yeah, they definitely are, and I find it interesting, actually. These are kind of almost the one step below the W13s. You know, it's kind of that and the IR18 for the IndyCar series. You know, there's options for these guys to be in this car, and not everybody can handle the W13s or the IR18. You know, there's a lot of things involved. There's a lot of button pushing throughout. There's, you know, all of this stuff happening. And with this car, it's a little bit more simpler. I'm not going to say it's easier because it, you know, I can't drive it for love nor money, but I'm just saying that it's a little bit more simpler than getting into the W13 or anything like that, because obviously you want to make sure that you can drive to the best of your ability. And as I say, some people just can't quite handle the pressure of driving the W13s as we're into the 5-minute warm-up.
Yeah, it is going to be rather interesting. It's cloudy overhead, track temperature 68 degrees Fahrenheit, air temperature 66 degrees. A little bit of a wind in the air, but normally with the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, James, we do see quite a lot of radiant sunshine. I'm hoping that the track will evolve over the course of it. There's no sort of predicted rain as such, but because we don't have rain on iRacing, folks. Not yet, but hopefully at some point that will happen in the not too distant future, because that's been teased for quite a lot. But you know, looking back at the previous sort of results, Marian Barbiero did an absolute number on everybody, did a really good strategy, and then just managed to keep a calm head. Really enjoyed the race at the Hungaroring. I mean, myself and Dean Biggles, we were commentating on that one, and there were, you know, they've all got to do a mandatory pit stop. It's going to be 44 laps of the circuit, so that's just a shade over 127 miles or 209 kilometers in total, and the drivers really are put through the ringer, because this is effectively a 66% like race distance of what we would see if they were to be put in the W13s, because obviously iFormula League were running with the Formula One cars up until the end of last season, and then switched to Super Formula, which I think is quite nice. I was talking to Biggles about this in the previous broadcast for last time out on the 20th of January, because they've had a couple of weeks break. I mean, it was Marian Barbiero in Pro and Tyler Gilbert that won respectively in the Pro and the AM classes. But I do like the way that the Super Formula car looks. You know, you've got a bit of the late 2010s with the shark fin on the back of it. The nose looks a bit 2020, 2021 F1 style. But it's also, as you said, it is a car that really has appealed to everybody. But I think that was James Miller just having a bit of a spin on the warm-up.
Yeah, it looked like he got out of the pits and then basically has just gone and binned it in turn one. Well, that's never a good way of doing that in general, to be honest with you. I'm not quite sure if he's trying to deal with technical issues there either. But, yeah, not an ideal scenario for him. But, yeah, I think it's really interesting with the cars. Although they're open wheelers, right, they're not F3s, they're not F4s, and they're not W13s. They do sit in that middle range. And you could see, as you said, you know, repping some of the design features that have been perceived in earlier Formula One cars as such. You know, as you said, the early 2020s, 2019s, you know. So I think there was a moment in F1 as well where we had that funny shaped rear section, you know, where it's almost like the shark fin at the back. Yeah. But it was one block, if I remember. I don't think it cut off quite that vigorously, if I remember, in F1. It was a little bit more all the way down to the base of the backplate kind of thing. So, yeah, I think they're good cars. You know, people seem to enjoy them and they are fun for them to drive. And as long as they do well in them at the end of the day, that's all that matters, isn't it? And they've got to have a good time and just make sure that they're not trying to TCR them, should we say.
Yeah, because I still remember when they had the shark fins in Formula One, you had the T-wings that started to emerge on the back of, like, say, the Mercedes and all that kind of stuff. And that was back in, it was back in 2017. I was just looking through some of the archives of, like, some of the images, and yeah, it made its, you know, made a debut, then made a return. But of course, with the circuit that we're running on, we've got more of an opportunity to carry momentum through the corners, like say with the La Casa, which is towards the final part of the circuit, and then Europe car, where you normally go down into the RACC chicane. But we don't have that because they're going to be able to power out of Banque Sabadell through Europe car and complete the lap. So there's no sort of hard braking zones, then having to switch the car left and then right through a chicane, and have to worry about the sausage curb on the outside, the inside, through New Holland, which is the final corner, turn 14. Now we're really going to see, I think, a lot more opportunities for drivers to get the rundown on what is probably one of the longest start-finish straights. It's all Derek Miller rearranges the back end of the number 56 quite spectacularly, and there's Iliano having a trip off the circuit too as we're coming to the end of the warm-up. But yeah, this track is going to be a different test to what the drivers had 2 weeks ago at the Hungaroring.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they definitely will. It's one of these circuits that can either be really, really good, Alex, or it can be quite shocking. But let's bring you up the grid here, buddy, and get this underway.
Okay, ahead of 44 laps of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, here's the grid. Derek Miller will start from pole position, Hannes Schlegel alongside. Tyler Gilbert in the AMS doing a great job. Starts P3, James Miller alongside on row 2, Marian Barbiero, joined by Frederick Larson, Gianluca Iliano. Jacob Biza rounds out the top 8 with Daniel Dixon and Alexander Shanna completing the top 10. Arturo Mayorga and Eric Magnusson round out the top 12, and completing the 14 Super Formula 23 cars that are due to go on the grid. It's going to be Adrian Asaba-Kuliside and Frank Biza that will round out the grid. We're just waiting for Kuliside to grid up. Might not have made it in time to the starting grid, so we are just waiting patiently. I'll only have a certain amount of time to grid up, but it's going to be 44 laps, this just shy of 2.9 mile circuit. There's Derek Miller, your pole sitter. Here come the 5 red lights as round 3 of the iFormula League Super Formula season gets underway. Now, lights are out. We are off and racing, and a good start by Larson from 6th position has already got up to, but look at the rocket ship start from Barbiero, who's already used the push to pass, I think, heading into T1 as Miller leads the field. It's 3 wide behind as Larson gets past Miller. Iliana gets through on Dixon, but Barbiero again just showcasing he was the only one in the warm-up for Hungaroring that did a standing test start. He might have done the same again as there's a bit of a squeeze up the inside, and Schlegel's got around and there has caused absolute chaos behind.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. You got Schlegel, Shana, Dixon, all involved in this little bit of a tat here as Schlegel on that run now as well. Comes down into the corner, he opens it up wide, closes in on the car in front, goes back, there's 1, there's 2, and unfortunately some of these look like they could be already done. Eric Magnusson was also involved in that one as well, but Larson battling away in 4th, up 2 places. Dixon's gone straight back to the pits, there's not a lot he's able to do. Shana's carrying on here as well. Magnusson is at the back behind Schlegel, who you can see has just made his car look like a go-kart currently, as he's sitting with no rear wing at all.
Yeah, at least he's still got 4 wheels on that wagon, and we have got yellow flags, so looks like the race might be neutralised as a result of it. So that says to me full course caution. But yeah, Hannes Schlegel, that was a really, really good qualifying session. Put it on the outside of the front row, and now goes down pit lane. He's going to have to hit the speed limiter very, very shortly. Daniel Dixon, I don't think, is going to recover from that. So race has been neutralised. Safety car is out. Not at all a surprise. It was like the Who would say those drivers played a mean pinball, but Schlegel, opened up the steering. We're going to have a look from the helicam shot. So there's one car trying to go up the inside. I'm not too sure who that was, but that might have been Bees or... yeah, it might have been Bees or possibly Jacob. And then, bang, there's the contact. And it's, Daniel Dixon's car was rearranged on the front and the rear. And straight away, that was a return to garage. So, yeah.
I don't think he saw much. I've got to be honest. I don't think he saw a lot. No, there's the car. Nowhere to go.
Yeehaw, Dukes of Hazzard.
Yep, as the saying goes, yeeted as well. So unfortunately for Daniel Dixon, he was gone. But the weirdest thing was that I wasn't quite sure whether or not Schlegel was fully responsible or whether or not he turned in. Now, this might give us a bit of a better angle. He's up the inside. He does look like he pinches it a little bit. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know on that one. I'll have to, yeah, not quite sure where to go with that one, I think.
Yeah, so we have got the Porsche safety car out here at round 3 of the iFL Super Formula Series for this season. Of course, we've already had 2 rounds. The championship will head to next week. We'll be heading to Circuit of the Americas, and then the 17th of February it's going to be Interlagos at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, and then we've got the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps, 2nd of March, 9th of March, San Marino Grand Prix at Imola, Austrian Grand Prix 16th of March, 30th of March we've got the Canadian Grand Prix at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Suzuka hosts the Japanese Grand Prix on the 6th of April, and then we'll have 2 races back-to-back with the Italian Grand Prix at Autodromo Nazionale Monza, and Circuit Zandvoort will host the final round of this season on the 27th of April. And this will help a little bit in terms of fuel conservation because depending on, well, that's a very second-hand, that ain't going to buff out. But yeah, like you say, it's a real shame for Daniel Dixon. He qualified, what was that?
Ninth?
Would have been ninth place.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, completely unsighted. When we saw the Dukes of Hazzard driver cockpit cam, yeah, just had absolutely nowhere to go. And it was, yeah, you were very, very right. When they went through Renault at effectively like turn 2 and 3, he just went for the move, or just tried to keep it in there. One went up the inside, then all of a sudden he's being turned around. And that's the problem. Again, we see this all the time, James, in single-seater competition, that you're very much exposed. And when that kind of thing happens, you are literally a passenger. We're going to have a look at Daniel Dixon again. I'm
trying to see. I think for me, it's Schlegel and Beezer. Now, that's not a great angle. I'm struggling to see. Beezer's gone up the inside, right? There wasn't contact.
Oh, so Schlegel's lost it all on his own because he's being pressurized by Jacob Beezer in the night. Was that Jacob Beezer in the 93 that was going up the inside of it?
No, it was one of the Lumos boys, I think.
Oh, Lumos. So
no,
yeah, that's very difficult to.
It's here,
oh, it's
isn't
Larson.
it?
Oh, it's Frederick Larson up the inside.
I'm wondering if there was any. So there's the rear. He's already on his way.
Yeah, the back end. Yeah.
And then there was contact there.
Yeah. So it was, in some ways, unfortunately, self-induced. So we are still under safety car conditions. So the laps will count down here. Please don't forget, if you are watching along on the JP Broadcasting Network, give it a like, share, subscribe, and also hit that notification bell whilst you're at it. You can also follow us on the relevant social media channels in the description down below, along with the links referring to the iFormula League, which is the premier Formula Racing League on iRacing. We are a full simulation-style Grand Prix Racing League with 2 concurrent series. So we've obviously got the Super Formula 23s using the Super Formula Series, and then tomorrow we're going to be back here again for the next round of the iFormula League F3 series, which uses the old Dallara F312 Formula 3 car. But this is going to play into the, the opportune hands of, I think, well, first of all, Marian Barbiero, the Romanian in second position, who got an absolute lightning start again for the 2nd race in a row, bolted from 5th to 3rd, from 5th up 3 places to 2nd. Tyler Gilbert is leading the way in the AMS, and he's 3rd at the minute. So Miller's got to really time this restart correctly, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's got also a perfect opportunity to play this right. It's going to be Miller's choice what he's going to do. But to be honest, I would start, as soon as he's allowed to, start backing off away from them, coming out of 11 or 12, like now, and literally waiting for the pace car to go. Then what I would do is hold them up going down the straight and then get them as close to the entry of 13 as we can, and then bolt. I would have held them up by now. You're too close. I would have allowed them to go, because I'd allowed him to go and backed away, because now would be my time to bolt. Now would be my time to go. I would have gone already, because you're going to jeopardize that long straightaway here as well. And just bringing them in is just opening yourself up. And no, I don't think this is the right way of dealing with this. But then again, you know, Miller might know more than me.
Yep, pace car in the pit lane, and now the lights go out and we're back underway. Barbiero squeezing up the inside of Miller into T1. A little bit of sidewall contact to the Romanian, gets through. A little bit of a run wide by Tyler. Oh, and he's got into the left rear of... he's got into the left rear of Miller. More drama, and Miller is going to be out. That back end is completely... Well, the front as well has taken a knock. That cut... 3 wheels on that wagon. I think Tyler Gilbert, he carried too much momentum. Safety car will breed safety cars. And we see here, Barbiero launches it up the inside. Gilbert runs wide out of turn 1, and he's the rejoin. He should have backed out of it. He's going to go, there's the contact, and it spins Miller around. He's a passenger. Miller goes to the outside to avoid. So does Larson. Mayorga to the inside and gets collected, and that was also was that Schlegel going through, or was that Iliano?
No, it might have been Iliano getting contact as well. All I've got to say to that, right, is what is this? Like, I'm not being rude, but this is some of the most unbelievable driving I think I've seen in the Super Formula car. And I'm going to be blatantly honest here. I don't see... The chicane's there for a reason. Go left, go right, and let everybody go away. Don't do that. I don't get that. That's like rookie class. That's insane in an open wheel to be coming in doing this. That's ridiculous. I'm amazed. I'm fully amazed that the stewards haven't jumped on him and just gone, see you later. That was just a big no. There as well. I'm astounded, I think, because I'm just so shocked by the fact that thought process was even done, because it shouldn't have been. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, looking at an onboard from Erik Magnusson.
He's going to get squeezed there on the right. He's going to try and hold it, but he does make a mistake in a minute as well. Oh, the safety car's out.
Yeah, like I said, safety cars breed safety cars. In the minute that Miller had that massive tank slapper, Kullerside was also got caught up in the crossfire. And Iliano's been in the pits for, Schlegel's been in the pits. Alexander Shanna, who was also caught up in all of that, has also ended up in pit lane. So on lap 5 out of 44, 2 successive safety car periods. So again, it just, I think that was, I think there will be, in many respects, Tyler Gilbert will be looked at for that one. Derek Miller will very much be vocal about his thoughts on that one, because Tyler Gilbert, the rejoin was, well, as I said, too much momentum carried through into the corner, ran wide, rejoined very, very badly. Indeed.
I do love your diplomacy. You're the one who doesn't end up in the steward's room having to explain his comments for live on a broadcast, Alex, where I generally do, because I speak too freely. It was awful. There is no other word for it. It was absolutely atrocious. And do you know what's worse? And this is one of the things that drives me crazy. Miller's at the back, in the pits, and been there for three minutes. And the person that's caused it just carries on like nothing's happened. Meh. Oh, well. He's off. Never mind. And it just carries on. And that is what drives me crazy. I don't know. Like, Alexander Sharnow will be in the steward's room at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, dear sir, and I'll have a chat about it. Mate, I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
This is one of the issues of racing. It caused that incident. And you can imagine if that was in F1, it would be outrageous. Where at this moment, right, coming round here off this turn, that rumble, them sausages are there for a reason. You're off, slow down. You've got to go left, 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 left. Nope. We're just going to hit Derek Miller instead. Some of the, I've got to be honest, that was some of the worst driving I've seen for a very long time. Sorry, Tyler, if you watch this back, but it was.
Yeah. Jacob Bees is now in pit lane as well, so he's going to drop a bit further back too. Frank Bees has been in the pits, so this might give the opportunity to some of the drivers to maybe have a longer second stint. You know, this is our second safety car period. The lights are out on the safety cars, so we will be going green next time around. But I think also, you know, I want to talk about Barbieru's just like literally steal candy off a baby move that he did on Derek Miller going into T1. He was literally nearly on the grass heading into the braking zone. But again, the Romanian is, he said to me in a post-race interview after the race at Hungaroring 2 weeks ago, he said, I'm just here to have fun and race. And by taking that kind of approach, you know, you're not under a significant amount of pressure, whereas Tyler Gilbert is equal on points in the AM classification with Eric Magnusson, who has made up through all this drama with the 2 safety car periods, has made it up from 12th position in qualifying, and he's now P6. So this will give Magnusson the incentive to try and get a little bit further up the order and as close to Gilbert as he can. But Gilbert, I think, will more than likely cop a big old penalty because there'll be multiple drivers DMing each other, or you know, whoever's the head of the stewarding team.
He's wiped out races. I'm sorry, he has killed people's races. Derek Miller, gone. Daniel, you know, who else was involved in that one? There was a couple of others, wasn't there, as well?
Well, Alexander Shanna got caught up, so he lost his rear wing, had to go in the pits. So now it's going to be down to Barbieru to really sort of time the restart. And I think because of what happened with, as you were talking about, Derek Miller's tactics on whether he should have bolted, before coming out of Europe car turn 13, get the hammer down then, because then you could start stretching that advantage and accelerate out of turn 14. And Barbieru has been very much, he's weaving from side to side as they're heading down into turn 11. So this is going to be the opportunity where he's going to let the pace car go. So that'll literally rocket off through turn 13 very shortly. But Barbieru is priming the car, and I know for a fact that that push to pass button will be hit the minute he comes out of the final corner. So as soon as he rockets up the road and tries to get the jump on Miller, Gilbert's waiting in the wings, but he's got to be very, very careful because he's got Frederick Larson behind him. And now the pace car has pulled away from Barbieru. He's waiting for the car to go into the pit lane, and the entrance is just on the approach into turn number 14. What's Barbieru going to do? Is he going to put the hammer down? He's waiting again, just like Miller did on the previous. And now he's gone. And that push to pass is being used as Gilbert.
Oh, he's on the back.
Gilbert, is that him that's just wrecked coming out of turn 14? I think it is. He might have put the hammer down, and he's straight in the pits. Well, can I say one word here? Karma. Gilbert, spins it on his own, and bang, backwards, takes the rear wing off, left rear.
He just put a throttle down. It won't even settle in the car.
He's just gone, wallop, straight in.
Yeah, and I've got to agree with you on that one. Karma strikes in mysterious ways, and it definitely did on that one. But Barbaru did what he needed to do. He got the jump on him. He was activating his push to pass. You could see that by the green light flashing on top of the cockpit as well. So that was activated and flashing. You can see it there on Magnussen's car. He's using it currently at certain places. Now he's off it as it's coming through. But yeah, Barbaru did what he needed to do. Iliano's still trying to catch up to Colour Seed there as well, as there's a piece of carbon fibre.
Someone's lost the front wing.
Yeah.
Now, that could be Muller, I think, judging by the... Not Magnussen, but yeah, it's Muller. Oh, dearie me, the Lumos Motorsports car. He was in... he was leading. He dropped it. Barbiero got full advantage. So that's going to be a trip down the pit lane if Muller decides to stay... Well, he's going to stay out. Brave boy, but... That's going to hamper the aero. That's going to give Frederick Larson the opportunity to close in on him. So the Dane closing in on the American for second position. Jacob Biza, fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 26.651. So let's have a look at what happens to Muller. So they're coming through out of turn. It's now turn 3.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ripped it off going over a curb here. I'm a little bit further back because I wasn't entirely sure where it come off on this one. But I'm wondering if it's coming down from 6, it'd be 7 and 8 going up into 9. So anywhere from here, this is where Muller's rear wing decides to terminate itself from the car. So I think overall, did he hit? Oh no, maybe not. So where did it end up deciding to drop itself off then? That seems a bit of a... Oh, there.
Oh, he smacked one of the cones. He smacked one of the cones. Yeah, well, that came off there.
Well, that's random.
And now, well, he's losing aero big time, so Larson's got past him and has already pulled up a gap. Iliano's got through, well, is ahead of Alexander Shanna, with Jacob Biza not too far behind. Those three are covered by about a second, as we're coming to now complete lap 8, gone to lap 9 out of 44. So Muller's going to have to pit now. If he decides to, and he does so, Mayorga also pits. So a few early pit stops, more than likely for damage-related incidents, including Muller taking out the cones and then taking out his front wing. So maybe that might have compromised somebody else that might have hit the debris, because that can happen on the iRacing server. Derek Miller is starting to make a bit of a comeback. And he's just got ahead. I think was that on Daniel Dixon. Yeah. As Tyler Gilbert has been in the pit lane for 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So if there is another safety car, there is a possibility that Miller's got some paces. He's doing 24.6s. Barbiero's just done a 24.3. Larson 24.4. Magnussen, Schlegel 25.9 and 25.2 respectively. So Miller at the minute, well, Mayorga's just done a 128.3. And Miller did a 124.6. So is going to be closing that gap. I think it's. I'm going to be impressed to see how far up the order Derek Miller gets by the checkered.
Well, he's going to have to. He's. If I'm going to be blatantly honest with you, Alex, here, he's not going to get anywhere. The reason I'm saying that is the fact that he's a lap down at the moment. On their restarts, it's single file and maintain. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's no wave arounds. There is a wave around, but there's no lucky dogs here. So whether or not he'll get the wave around is a different situation, which might benefit him. But overall, at the moment, we're going to have to see what Derek Miller can do. But unless there's another safety car, he's not going to move anywhere. He's got to go around the whole lap, through the whole field, and then come back again. And me and you have both seen that that's never been relatively possible unless we're watching an oval NASCAR race.
True, like we did earlier on this week.
Yes.
But Gianluca Iliano, who got 3rd place overall last time out of the Hungaroring, is closing in on Eric Magnusson for 4th place. So Magnusson leading in the AMS, if I'm very much mistaken. Now up 8 positions to 4th. Iliano is about 0.3 of a second behind, but of course, with the push to the push to pass in the Super Formula 2023 Toyotas, you can use, like in the IndyCar side of things, push to pass as an attacking or a defensive countermeasure. But that's going to be a move up the inside, little bit of a side pod check by Iliano, and he gets through on Magnussen. He's now got Alexander Shanna right up the rear diffuser.
Yeah, a little bit of a hip check there from Iliano. Not entirely sure if he was close enough in to really make the apex and lock up the inside, I think. Might have been a little bit of a better move. Shana's looking up the inside of Magnussen. Beezer's tucked up right behind him. They pitted, of course, under the safety car, so they should be good, I think, if it's classification on the rules, that they should be able to pit under the safety car. That should allow their one-stop pit stop, shouldn't it? I'm pretty sure I've not seen anything that counters that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it will be quite interesting to see that if there is another safety car, because we didn't have a safety car period at all during the Hungaroring. You know, the incidents were not in sort of like the danger aspect that we've had here at Spain, because we all know that going into Elf and then into Renault, which is turns 1, 2, and 3, it is a really fast part of the circuit. You know, you're hard on the anchors, you're turning the car in, trying to carry the momentum through, using the aero. But then, of course, if you got the aero washed from the car in front of you, that's going to compromise your handling. Also, the wind direction can be very, very crucial here in Spain, as still it's quite cloudy overhead. Track temperature is nearly at 70 degrees Fahrenheit as we ride on board with the number 16 of Lumos Motorsports Super Swede, Erik Magnusson, currently in 5th place as Gianluca Iliano is starting to improve and is putting down personal best, but not on the pace that Hannes Schlegel in 3rd now has. And Schlegel's just done a 1:22.892, is the fastest one out there overall, 1:22.8 for the number 90, currently running P3 and is about 4 seconds off of the rear wing of the number 7 of Denmark's Fredrik Larsen. But it just depends on how much more time Schlegel can take out of Larsen to close on in, as we've got this battle here between the likes of Adrian Kullerside from Norway in the number 8. He's between the two Beezers, Jacob up front, Frank behind. So that's the battle for P7 on the road overall. So an interesting battle here. They've also got James Miller, who's rejoined after having a new front wing attached to his Super Formula 23. He rounds out the top 10, having dropped all the way down from 4th to 10th position, and was running P2 before he literally gave his front wing the exiting it's P45.
Yeah, unfortunately for Tyler Gilbert there, he's back into the pit lane as well currently at the moment. So Kulleseed, Beezer and Shana are your closest battle on the circuit as we're on lap 13 of 44. 31 more to go here for these guys. Gilbert's back into the pit, so I'm not entirely sure if Gilbert there is having a problem. He's 3 laps down at the moment as well, after being involved in his earlier incident, should we say, as they battle off now as well. And that run along right-hander of turn 3 before they come into Repsol at 4. And these guys are starting to spread a little bit here, Alex, and all the cars starting to get a little bit more spread out.
Yeah, it was... They started to spread out quite a bit earlier when we were at the Hungaroring, as we see a little bit of smoke from the back of Alexander Shanna's car in number 45, up from 10th to 6th position, so gaining 4 places at the moment has the number 45, and everyone's starting to put in some personal best laps. Now that they've all got a little bit of space between them, they're able to use the tow here at the circuit just to try and get those extra couple of miles an hour. Derek Miller, actually, I've been looking at the top speeds. Derek Miller has shown the fastest top speed, I think 200 miles an hour, whereas everyone else is running in the low 180 mile an hour bracket to the low 190 mile an hour bracket. Daniel Dixon is the second fastest in terms of the speed trap, 195.5 miles an hour. So we're getting into that point where the consistency's really got to help. But here comes now that's Jacob, that's Derek Miller putting a lap. He's unlapping himself.
Yeah, I think that was Miller unlapping himself on colour seat there as well. So Miller is making his way forward, but as we say, he's got to go around the whole field to come back again, which is never an easy feat. Let's put it this way, and I've never seen it done, as I say, apart from in NASCAR. Cars now breaking almost out on the second mark on each other. Shana and Jacob Beezer are the closest ones together at the moment. However, Beezer has got the Derek Miller closing up on him as well. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see how this evolves. 30 laps on the clock now, Alex, and 2 safety cars. Not an ideal afternoon of racing for these guys.
No, not at all. James Miller now has the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 22.649 that he completed on his 13th tour around this 2.894 mile, 4.657 kilometre, 14 turn circuit. As the drivers make their way down this incredibly long start finish straight. Unlike Formula 1, there is no DRS on these Super Formula 23 cars. That's why they've got the push to pass variation instead, which gives a little bit more grunt to that 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. And Miller again, another new fastest lap, and he's really taking chunks out of Frank Beezer at the moment. He's got the gap down to just under 8 seconds. 1:22.537. That's just over 6.3 seconds slower than Max Verstappen's lap record in Formula 1 last year. So looks like the race, well, the pace is coming to Miller now that he's got that car all ship-shape in Bristol fashion, and he's not leaving any stone unturned. Frank Beezer last time did a 1:24.2, so Miller taking around about a second and a half to close to 2 seconds out of the number 61. As Alexander Shanna dive bombs up the inside, runs wide, and Jacob Beezer's just lost it. So Kullerside has gone through. A little bit of an exchange between the pair, so Shanna now back up to 6th, and yeah, I think that was Daniel Dixon just coming through there too, trying to get himself back onto some semblance of a couple of laps behind. But Miller's slowly chipping away at that gap between him and Mayorga. It's now down to 56.5 seconds. There's Frank Beezer coming out of turn 14 in the number 61 car. Jacobs dropped it and put himself down to 9th. But is running quicker on pace. I mean, he lost a lot of time on that particular lap. His previous one was a 1:23.9. He's just done a 1:33.2, so lost a big old bag of time. But here is Frederick Larson, and he's not too far behind Marian Barberu, our race leader. So a pretty good job at the minute. So that looks to be one of the closest battles, along with Kullerside and Shanna for 6th place.
Yeah, Kullerside is closing down here on Shana. Shana has got Miller, I believe. That's Miller in front of him, if I'm not mistaken. It is. So Derek Miller in front of Shana. Don't forget, Miller is a lap down. So from his point of view, the problem is this wonderful blue flag rule that we know and love and hate and all at the same time. For Derek Miller, he isn't going to sit behind Alexander Shana. Shana's slower than him, so Miller's going to want to get past him and get on up the road, which is what he is doing. Unfortunately for Shana, he's got Kullerside, who's also a different class to what Shana is, and he wants to get past Shana as well, because Kullerside's an AM. Kullerside's a pro, Shana's the AM, and it's represented by the 0 before the numbers. All the AMs have got a 0. But I would be surprised if this man gets through on Shana very, very shortly.
Yeah, because then Kullerside might be able to close in on the leading AM class car, the number 16 of Eric Magnussen, who is still running in a steady 5th position. So a good showing from him. Tyler Gilbert has not moved from pit lane and is out of the race after 7 laps. After that, boot it and spin it around and go backwards, and let's see how many wheels stay on that wagon moment. Miller's now going to get through on the car in front, which I think was that Magnussen. He's just got past the
Magnussen, yeah.
So I think what they will know, hang on, there's a pro behind us, let's just let him go, let him do his own thing. And that's exactly, it's going to help Derek Miller, because he's just taken 2 seconds out of Arturo Mayorga in 11th position. But still, Miller on this particular occasion hasn't been able to pull away from Magnusson, who isn't that far behind him in terms of pace. Last lap around, well, his best lap so far a 1:23.2, but he just did a 1:24.0. And Magnusson has just got into pit lane. So Shanna's up to 5th. Gullerside, who's 0.6 of a second behind him, is in 6th, but 5th overall. Eric Magnusson now pits from the AM class lead. So Shanna is now finding himself in the AM class lead. His nearest competitor is 6.5 seconds behind. That's Frank Beezer in the number 61, who started stone dead last and finds himself halfway up the order as we're on lap 18 out of 44. Things have calmed down after the madness in the first 6 or 7 laps today, James.
Yeah, they have. It's been a very weird race, this, and we talk about Catalunya being that kind of bizarre track when things like this happen, because now you can see on the left hand side, after the 2 safety cars, even though we've had 2 safety cars, nobody is close together. Like, you know, we've got the colour seed who's trying to clear Shana, but that's an Am and the Pro. We've got Mayorga making inroads on Magnusson, but Magnusson's just come out the pits, mind you. That's the only reason Mayorga's anywhere near Magnusson at the moment. So it's all a little bit spread. You know, you've got 122.459, 122.716. So another 3 tenths for Barbaru up front over Larson. So I have to see how they all go here. Most of them have already pitted. It's just the top 2, Højgaard Larson and Barbaru, who haven't pitted. And they didn't pit under safety car either, which I believe would have been a mistake. But, you know, I'm not in the car. I'm sure there's a reason for what they're doing. But I can guarantee Colour Seed here is chomping at the bit to clear Shana as best he can at the moment.
Yeah, very much the case. As soon as he's got that run out of, going past the 45 AM class car that's still currently leading, as we're halfway through lap number 19 out of 44. We're right on board with Adrian Kurdesid from Norway in the number 8, and just really nice to see these sort of kind of camera shots where you really get an understanding of what the driver's viewpoint is. So into the next left-hander and into the right, so that'll be at Verth. You can just see how hard Kurdesid is pushing. He was exactly a 10th to the decimal point quicker than Alexander Shanna, and Shanna will know that Kurdesid's behind him and will keep an eye on that delta. And if Kurdesid gets the opportunity, Shanna will be better off just to decide, well, I'm going to let him through, and especially if number 8 is significantly quicker. Hannes Schlegel, new fastest lap of the race, 1:22.371 as we head on to lap 21. We're on lap 20 out of 44, so we're a couple of laps away, 3 laps away from the halfway point, including this one. So Schlegel really picking up the pace, despite what happened in that self-inflicted spin around on the opening tour of this 44-lap race here at this Barcelona circuit, and he's about 4.3 seconds behind Larson, but he is taking some chunks of time out of him, the best part of nearly half a second a lap.
Yeah, he is, but his question is he going to be able to get there? That's the thing for Schlegel. As you say, he's got 4.29 seconds. In hindsight, he should be able to get there within about 5 laps, but it's whether or not he's able to keep this pace up. I think that's the thing for Schlegel. Is he able to pick up the pace? You can see Larson was quicker over 15, 16 and 18. Schlegel was quicker over 17 and 19. And they're exactly the same, because if you take the 4, nearly 5 tenths, they're practically level on who's taken the most out of each other. So from that side of things, again, I would say that he's got a bit of a mission on his hands to try and get there when they've been equaling out on lap times. If there was still 4 tenths, 5 tenths on the right-hand side, under, bottom where Larson's name is on lap 20, I'd start getting a bit more realistic. But I think at the moment when they're doing 122.23s and 122.35s, he's not pulling out enough. A tenth isn't enough, because a tenth is going to be 10 laps just to get a second, and he hasn't got that. He might have the 10, but I don't think he's got 4 seconds. So he's going to need, in hindsight, a tenth per lap is 40 laps, and we're not going to have 40 laps. He's only got about 23 remaining. So he's going to struggle here to get close, I think.
Well, Schlegel did set the unofficial fastest lap of the race, but it was disallowed due to exceeding track limits. New fastest lap on lap 20, done by Frederick Larsen, who has started to respond. 1:22.349. Schlegel was quicker by over a tenth and a half in the opening sector, half a tenth in sector 2. They were literally dead level, so 1 or 2 tenths of a second is not going to make much of a difference, as we now see James Millett closing in on the 93 AM class car of Jacob Beezer. Eric Magnussen, after his pit stop, is running in 11th and is closing in on the number 2 car of Arturo Mayorga. So, yeah, it is going to be quite interesting how the second half of the race is going to pan out, because we're about 50% of the way through this lap with the leaders. Barbiero 1.1 seconds. So Larsen is catching the race leader as Millett looking to possibly go up the inside through turn 1. Late on the brakes through Elf and now into Renault as they have the run to Repsol, which is the sweeping right-hander that sort of nearly comes back onto itself, so to speak. It tightens as you go through the apex, and Millett uses the outside line or the exit to carry the momentum through. So we're now going to see a replay. This is with Daniel Dixon. Locks up on the right front, off into the kitty litter, and loses a bag full of time thereof, and still manages to hold it.
Yeah, only just, mind you. Millett and Beezer running side by side. Millett's just gone round. Beezer's not going to cause any fight. That's a pro and am. No reason for Beezer to even try and scrap on that one as well. He just lets Millett go. So that battle is done and dusted. Everybody else fairly spread out on the racetrack at the moment. We've got 21 laps to go, as I'm trying to do quick maths on a Saturday afternoon.
Well, it was not as bad as my attempt at 3 o'clock on a Friday morning, was it?
No.
I completely lost my chain of thought. Hannes Schlegel, 1:22.0. He's got that gap down to 3.4 and was over 4 tenths of a second. That's what he really needs. He needs about 4 tenths, maybe half a second a lap to really start closing in on Larsen. Larsen did a 1:22.486. Schlegel 1:22.046, so 4.4 tenths of a second between the pair. But yeah, I think he's got to really take advantage of when Larsen and Barbiero decides to pit, because that'll effectively put him in the race lead. But then it's dependent on how long Barbiero and Larsen, who are the only two that have yet to pit so far in this race, when do they bite the bullet? When do they go in the pit lane? And how much time can Hannes Schlegel rack up in front of them? Because he pitted quite early, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he pitted down on lap 1. I think that was because he was caught up in that incident in lap 1, to be fair, as well. So Schlegel went in, so technically he doesn't really need to go in again. But it depends whether or not he feels he needs to. So we'll keep an eye on that one as these guys are continuing to sort of drive around at the moment. I think they're just jostling for keeping it as close as they can to the people in front to hope that there's a mistake, which unfortunately doesn't look like there's very many mistakes coming.
Yeah, but you and I both know, James, that over the course of a race that is, they're covering nearly 128 miles in this race. There's a lot that, when you're going up the ranks in terms of the single-seater categories in the iRacing service, the dexterity, ABS and traction control on some cars will be prevalent. Something like this, you won't have ABS, you won't have traction control, so to speak. But you'll have an understanding of how it compares to, say, if you run in an F3 car. James Millett, his first time in a Super Formula car was last time out of the Hungaroring. And he's learnt a lot since then. Still, the mistake with the front wing is something that he'll be thinking of. Why on earth did I run too wide? Because they'll also be a lot more physically exerted because it's a longer race. You know, they're going to be racing for probably pretty much the best part of well over an hour at this circuit, probably the best part of an hour and a quarter. So they'll be sweating bullets, they'll be mentally and physically drained. That is where we saw it at Hungaroring. Gianluca Iliano was battling James Miller for second position, penultimate corner of the race. What happens? Iliano puts the power down, spins the back end, and misses out of the runner-up step on the podium. And Miller was there to wait, capitalise, and had put Iliano under pressure, was reading him in like multiple seconds a lap, like 2.5 seconds, because Iliano at that point had used all his push to pass. So that's another thing that these drivers have to contend with. If you are a bit more relaxed when it comes to trying to be chomping at the bit and use the push to pass, you'll be able to have a little bit more additional when you need to catch up to somebody, as Jacob Bees has just had a moment himself. It's not just about the car, it's also about how much push to pass out of the 200 seconds have you got left. There's Jacob Beezer. We're just seeing the number 93 car. It's going to be into the left-hander here, goes wide. Oh, Spinaroonie, and he manages to hold the brakes and keep it out of the barriers.
Yeah, definitely did there, unfortunately. For Miller, he's moving up as well. Pro versus Ham. Bees are probably not going to cause too much of a drama, and I don't think Shana would do either, as these guys don't really want to jeopardise their own race. But we'll have to see what happens there again as well, and see how they all get. Oh, steady, 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 steady. Round he goes. He should be able to get round the outside. Bees should, I would have thought, just back off just a little bit and allow him through here as well. There you go. Jobs are good. And for James Miller, he's now setting after Shana, who is just about on the top left. There he is at the bottom part of your screen now, before Miller moves back into the top 6, of course.
Yeah, Schlegel's done on the new fastest lap, 121.771. Miller's running in the 122.9, so I think it's going to be at least probably a couple of laps in which we'll see Miller catch and pass Shanna without no real trouble. Shanna's already let Kullerside through, so that's going to be Miller's next target. And at the minute, Kullerside is about 5.5 seconds up the road from the number 9. So that'll be the battle for 5th position. Iliano is around about 6 seconds behind Schlegel, and Schlegel again has just gone. He's done a 121.642. I think he's on lower fuel than everybody else, so he's managing to claw up that gap. And Larson did a 122.5. So it's going to be a couple of laps before we see another change, and it'll be for the runner-up step. And then Schlegel might decide, well, I've got the opportunity. We've had 2 safety car periods. I've been able to save a little bit of fuel, and maybe save some push to pass. And I'm going to go hunting after Barbiero, who's only 2.7 seconds up the road from him.
Yeah, I still don't know if he's going to get close enough, though, for Schlegel. Especially as to the fact that we've not got long left here as well, you know. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be tough for him to get further up the field. Last time out, Schlegel on a 121.6. Larson on a 122.5, 9 tenths quicker. Barbaru and Larson are in here. Personally, I think they should have gone under the yellow flag. I'm not entirely sure, considering we're running 100% fuel limit as well. I'm pretty sure they probably could have done with running under yellow, which is technically a free pit stop as such. But maybe I'm a little bit different. Not entirely sure on that one. But, yeah, Barbaru and Larson are in. Colourseed should just about get them. Mallet is up to full speed, but I think they're coming out of the pits. They are there as well. Colourseed is not going to get through. Larson's coming out, and Mallet's not going to get him either. So at the moment, these guys with James Mallet, with Larson, has just gone in. With Barbaru, they are 22 seconds behind Schlegel.
So now it's going to be a case of how hard does Barbiero push, because he's got 16 seconds between himself and Iliano, and they both pitted early in the race. So if they decided to go for an undercut opportunity, you know, we've seen that Barbieri and Larson both in the pits for 7.2, 7.65 seconds respectively. That's going to be the key point. And also, the good thing is who's Barbieri got behind him? His teammate. Well, one of his teammates from the Intrepid crew. The Intend crew. Iliano now pits. So this could be the sign that Schlegel needs to get as much distance. Now, what was Barbieri's total pit time from entry to exit, James?
30 seconds, 30.42.
Okay, so Schlegel has just done a 121. Barbieri on a 145, obviously, with exiting the pit lane. I'm going to be interested to see if Barbieri keeps that gap as it is. So Kullerside has dropped down to 9th overall, behind Jacob Beezer. He was in the pits for 8.5 seconds. So Schlegel's pit stop has to be on point. And it depends on how long he's going to stretch that out. Because if he's decided to go with as much fuel as possible to get him later on in the race, it also depends on Barbieri, how he responds. So if Schlegel's doing 121.6s, if Barbieri's doing like low 122s, then we could see the fact that Schlegel might not be able to open up that gap, and then Barbieri does it on the undercut. But as I say that, Schlegel's just done a 121.457 on lap 29 out of 44. So we're on to lap 30, so 15 to go, including this one. Gap between Schlegel and Barbieri, around about 25.2 seconds. I'm going to be interested to see what Barbieri does coming out of the final corner in his lap time.
Yeah, well, we'll pay attention this time around and see how it is. We've got Schlegel at 121.4. What about Barbaro here as well, labelling up as a 122.53. So almost 1.1 seconds slower than Schlegel. That's not going to be enough here. Mayorga and Magnussen coming through the order. Magnussen now as well, pitted on lap 17, where he's had one trip through the pits as these guys with Mayorga and Kullerside. They're battling out for position as these guys come down into turn one now as well. Magnussen in the blue and white behind him there currently with Mayorga. Here's Magnussen going to make a dive. He isn't making a dive this time around, Alex. So he's just got to sit there again.
Yeah. And this is not helping him at all. He was in the AM class lead earlier on in the race, and that's now in the hands of Alexander Shanna as Schlegel pits. Schlegel pits with 14 laps to go. And the key point is now, how far behind Marian Barbieri will he be? But will it be the case that Barbieri and Larson both jump him in the pit stop phase? Schlegel currently refueling as we speak. Let's see what the pit box time was. 2/1000 slower than Barbieri, but the lap they are closing in quite significantly. Barbieri will now take the race lead, but the big question is how far behind Schlegel how far in front will Barbieri be on Schlegel? The lead will now change. It's going to be close. It's going to be very, very close indeed. And is Schlegel still ahead?
Yes.
I think that's a yes.
Yeah,
well,
he is by about 6/10 at the moment, but so don't count out Barbaro here. He's led from start to finish, and he's doing an absolutely stellar job once more. And I find it very difficult if Schlegel will be able to keep him in check. I think Barbaro could be on for a win here, Alex, and that's no offence to Schlegel. I just think Barbaro's got the pace over him.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one, James. It was just the case that Barbieri was absolutely mighty at the Hungaroring 2 weeks ago, and now we're seeing a real repeat of that, and that could really help Barbieri's opportunity to solidify his lead in the pro standings. And here is the move up the inside. Schlegel tries to close the door and does so, keeps a hold of the lead as they come through turn 13, nearly hits the sausage curb on the left-hand side of Schlegel. And now this is the opportunity for Barbieri to use the push to pass. It's flashing on the airbox hoop on Barbiero's number 23 car. And Barbiero looks to the inside through turn 1 on lap 32. The Romanian retakes the race lead from the Austrian.
Yeah, I think it was more of a matter of when it was going to happen. I don't think it was going to be able to hold him back. Iliano with Biza and Shana. I am, saying as I pick up Iliano, he goes off the side of the circuit, so that's always nice. Shana and Biza still going at it. This is for the lead in the AMS here, Alex, as well. So great running from these guys. And let's see how the AMS turn out as we've got the final 12. These are the 2 leaders in the AMS currently.
Marian Barbiero looking for a second successive win, and the way things are going, we are set to have our 3rd AM winner in a row. And there you see the nationality flags. So at the moment we have 4 different nations in the top 4. Romania leads from Austria as well. I did see that Larsen and Schlegel have now started battling away. So Schlegel's had a moment. Larsen briefly got through. Schlegel got back at him. So, yeah, as I was saying, so this is what happens. This is probably going to be going down
turn 10.
More, turn 10. So what happens to Schlegel? Oh, he rotates again, and Larsen gets out of the way. Schlegel rejoins, stays on the inside line. Larsen lets him back through, so to speak, and then decides, well, I want to battle you out on track and get past you that way. So we have Romania leading from Austria, Denmark, the United States, make that 5 different nations in the top 6, with Italy, with Gianluca Iliano in 6th. But yeah, I mean, Schlegel, that was his 2nd unforced error. So he hoisted himself by his own petard on that one, and he's dropped 6 seconds behind Barbiero, who now can comfortably pull away, and he won by a country mile at the Hungary. The same could be said, but not as extensive in this round here at Barcelona, James.
Yeah. This has been more of a race of nutrition. It's been being able to keep it on track will put you in a good position going forward, and that's what they've all been trying to do. I think with the Larsen and Schlegel, I don't know if Larsen had much choice with Schlegel being in the middle of the circuit to take that exit road. I reckon if Larsen had the inside, as Iliano now has just taken over Frank Biza again, I don't expect Biza to be scrapping away quite as much as what anybody else would think, because he's a different class. But I think at the end of the day, you know, they've got to try and survive. And silly mistakes with 10 to go isn't going to make you survive here.
Yeah, exactly. You want to mitigate those unforced errors. You don't want to have them happen. As there is, in the background, James Miller in the number 9 car. Back up to 7th position has come the American, having started on the outside of row number 2. At 1 trip in the pit lane. Didn't really help him when he lost the front wing on the car, but that gave him the opportunity to refuel, repair the damage, and get back out on track. So, like we saw at the Hungaroring, just scything his way through the traffic in front of him. It's only going to be a case of when, not if, he passes the car in front, which I would say is probably going to be more than likely down the start-finish straight, as there, well, it might be even sooner than that, or close, but yeah. Frank Biza just keeps it on the racing line, which he is in some ways entitled. He is actually entitled to do, because there is not a blue flag situation between these two. He runs a little bit wide, and that's going to give Miller the opportunity he needs to get through round the outside once again. And Miller finds himself up into 6th position. Meanwhile, Hannes Schlegel again has started putting in the really, really big laps. 1:21.412 on lap 34 out of 44. We've got 10 to go, including this one. Marian Barbiero looking comfortable at the minute, as James Miller and Frank Biza trying to go nearly side by side. Biza was looking up the inside through on Miller into turn 1. And the number 9 from Lumos eMotorsports not letting him get through, whereas Alexander Shana has got Italy's Gianluca Iliano closing in, and this could possibly, if Iliano doesn't have any moments, it could put him into 4th place overall. So, bit of a moment there. I saw some smoke coming from the front left of Alexander Shana, and here might be the move. No, not quite.
Yeah, he almost tried to go up the inside into turn 7 and 8 there for Iliano. Again, this is a separate battle to what the field suggests. It's a pro and am battle. So let's see whether or not Shana will maintain the lead in front of these two, or will he just let them go? If he lets him go, the possibility of joining Biza, well, that's something that might happen, unfortunately, here for Shana. But at the moment, everybody else is quite just chilled out, well spread. Barbary with the 121, the fastest lap of the race, 121.39, 128.14 for Schlegel, 121.7 for Larson. So at the moment, as long as Barbary keeps it on track, there is not enough time for Schlegel to get near him.
I think Barbieri is just enjoying being out in front again. He said, as I said earlier on, he said, last time out, I'm really here to enjoy himself. And oh, Shannon just drops the ball. Backhand rotates on him. And let's have a look. It's coming down into the start, into turn 1. So Iliano's probably had the push to pass happening, and he goes up the inside.
It was contact.
And there was a little bit of contact between them. Oh, yeah.
I've got a funny feeling there was contact going into that turn there.
Yeah. We'll see it from the overhead helicam shot. So Iliano with a head of speed into T1, looks to the inside.
Well,
yeah.
There wasn't contact, but there was a big old gap, should we say. And unfortunately, it looked like our wonderful netcode friend has joined us once more here.
Yes.
Have a look from this picture. You'll see them both now. You see them come on the inside, and there you go.
Ah, well.
Could not have been any more serious and proven than that, really, could it? Because it was like a 1.5 gap between the two of them.
Yeah, it was like the width of a tyre between them.
Yes.
And that is one of the unfortunate things that does where it looks like there hasn't been contact, and then we see our, as James rightly alluded to, the good old netcode friend here in the sim racing world, making sure it happens as Alexander Shanna now pits on lap 37 this race. So we've got 8 to go, including this one. Jacob Biza thereby. So it's going to be Frank and Jacob Biza, or Biza 1-2, into the final stages of the race. So Alexander Shanna has dropped behind Erik Magnusson. So Magnusson could possibly overtake Tyler Gilbert in the AM classification. But that depends on the rest of the championship standings.
Yeah, I would have thought he would do, to be fair, because I don't think Gilbert's going to score any.
Well, he's DNF'd.
Yeah, he's out, so he probably shouldn't. But Iliano is got James Malaire for company. Malaire coming back through. This is, of course, battling class here as well. So they are entitled to race, which is great for us. Not too good for Daniel Dixon, who's up the road sitting there on the same piece of racetrack here. So he's got to make a decision, either let them go or stay in front of them. And I think for Daniel Dixon, the smart thing would be to let Iliano go.
100% agree with you on that front. It is a battle for pride, but it's also a repeat of what we saw in the battle for P2 at the Hungaroring 2 weeks ago. Daniel Dixon, in the meantime, sets his own personal best to 1:23.065. As Malaire is within half a second going into turn 1 on Gianluca Iliano in the number 11. So we are coming down to the final few moments of this 44-lap race here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, for round 3 of the iFormula League Super Formula season. Season 7, if you include all the cars that we've been using on the top tier iFormula League racing. Racing ladder, so to speak. But also Formula 3 will provide a lot of bang for the buck here at Barcelona. There'll probably be quite a few more cars on the grid. You'll be able to catch that tomorrow afternoon here on JP Broadcasting from 5:15 UK time. Tomorrow afternoon, which will be the 4th of February. Also after that, there'll be more Formula 3 action with IGP Fun as they continue their Formula 3 travels. So a Formula 3 double bill to round out the week of broadcasting here on JPB.
Yeah, what more could you ask for? Double bill of F3 action. It's going to be absolutely incredible, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how both of them races to go. The cars are a little bit more spread out than we would have liked, of course, going into the final 5 laps here with the leader all the way around in Repsol turn 4. He's got to go around the long right-hander, of course. It almost comes back on yourself. Then round turn 5, which is the hairpin, or, well, an accumulation of the hairpin, Alex, there, I think I would call that one.
Definitely. But here is the race leader. He's been doing a pretty sterling job, pretty much has led all of the laps so far, apart from having to take his trip through the pit lane just before, well, just over two-thirds distance. But Marian Barbiero looks to extend his championship lead in the pros here at Barcelona. And very shortly, we'll be heading on to 5 laps to go. But yeah, what a drive this Romanian's done. Just like we had, he must. I'm sure that when we speak to him later on, I'll be asking him the question: were you the only one that got on your grid position for the start? Because he did that, and he got a better jump. He got a better start than he did. Well, he got a really good start on the race at Hungaroring. He was third, and then before you knew it, he threaded the eye of the needle in towards the inside of the front 2 and made it stick into turn 1. And he did pretty much exactly the same. He jumped from 5th to 2nd, and then, of course, before Derek Miller's unfortunate accident on lap 5, that saw him be in the pits for over 5 minutes. And you know, you have to give Derek Miller credit where credit is due. He's got that gap down to 72.5 seconds between himself and Barbiero. But yeah, I think there's going to be some words had between him and Tyler Gilbert at some point post-race. And that, I think the air might be a little bit blue from one side of the discussion.
I wouldn't be surprised. I've got to be honest here as well. I would definitely not be surprised if there was some form of swift language, should we say, used in after this race, because to be honest, I would be using the same. I would be literally sitting there going, what the living duties was that about? I've got to be honest, it was awful. In no other term of the word, it was absolutely awful. Shana's been off the side of the track again, and unfortunately has had to jump into the pits as well, along with the words of, I've probably just given up. And Beezer's also, Jacob Beezer this time, has decided to do a nice little pirouette for us as well and show us his ballet on the race circuit.
And Derek Miller has just been into the pits for his second pit stop, the first actually not through any fault of his own. But here is Erik Magnusson, currently running at the top 3 in the AMS, 10th overall but 3rd in class. About 1.1 seconds behind Arturo Mayorga in the number 2 car as Magnusson comes out of turn number 14. And there is Derek. Well, who's that in front of him? Was that Derek Miller, I believe? I think it was, wasn't it?
It is Miller, yeah. Miller's obviously still, he's just got off the side of the circuit, unfortunately, Derek Miller. And they nearly have, him and Dixon nearly have another moment here as well. But Miller just missed his breaking point and off he went, unfortunately. Right at the moment in time we pick up on him, Alex.
Cameraman's curse on that one.
Not blaming me for that one.
Oh, no. I mean, as in the remote cameraman, not the broadcast director, which is your good self. But Hannes Schlegel again, trying to get that gap down. It's now down to less than 2.9 seconds. But he's just done 2 successive fastest laps of the race. 1:21.267. He's just posted. Gap now down to 2.8. I think it's just the fact that Barbiero knows that he's got enough pace and enough of a gap between himself and Hannes Schlegel to get the job done and take the race victory. Because we've got 3 laps to go, including this one. We're on to lap 42. Out of 44, and what can you say about Barbiero? Absolutely masterful for the second round in succession.
Yeah, he's been an absolute dominant force here as well as Barbiero, and he's done incredible. So I think, you know, for him, he's just got to run around these last 2 laps, take a chill, go on a Sunday drive. You know, don't worry about it. He's done an amazing job. He's got Schlegel's 2.8. You can see him in the background. Højgaard Larsen behind that for the Knox E Motorsports boys is further back. And Ilianu there as well is on his own with James Miller trying to close down, but not quite getting there.
Now, they're pretty much equal on pace, these two, and I think Miller will be happy to secure a solid fifth place finish. Of course, the halo round his airbox is now out, and that means he's got no more push to pass, so he's probably been doing a lot of it, using a lot of it to try and close in on those in front, including Iliano, who will still have some push to pass to try and extend that gap, and it's now gone just north of a second. So Iliano will be activating that, but Malaire still, with no push to pass, there's a 1:21.5, so still a good baseline performance for the number 9 from Lumos E Motorsports, as Barbiero is halfway through this lap of this race, as James Malaire, goes a little bit wide, going through turn 3. Showed us an off track on our live timing, but he hadn't caused himself major dramas. He just ran a little bit wide, folks. It's all good. But Hannes Schlegel, in the meantime, has just taken 6/10 out of the opening sector, and now I've just seen it 6/10. It was a lot more than that. It was the best part of well over half a second. He's just taken out in sector 2. He's got that gap down to 1.8, so we have got not that long left. Here is Schlegel, as Barbiero will now cross the line. White flag in the air, just under 2.9 miles to go, as Marian Barbiero has got Hannes Schlegel starting to close in. Schlegel just did a invalidated 1:20.676. With Barbiero a 1:22.043. If it was another 2 or 3 laps and Schlegel was still running at that pace, so 23.8 in the opening sector for Barbiero. Schlegel mid-23.6. It's not going to be enough, and Barbiero is comfortably cruising to the win at the end of 44 laps here at Barcelona.
Yeah, Barbero's not got many corners left to go. Here he's on turn 7 and 8. He's literally got 5 corners to go here, Alex. And he's driven like an absolute trooper. He's just done what he needed to do. Schlegel's closing in on him 9/10, but I don't know if Schlegel's going to be able to get there. Both of these haven't got any push to pass left. They're both out. But at the moment, Barbero should manage to hang on, as he's got, 3 corners left to go?
Yep, here it is. So we're going to have a back-to-back race winner for the first time this season, as out of turn 14, the number 23 of Get Good Racing's Marian Barbiero weaves from side to side and takes the checkered flag after 44 laps of racing, winning by 0.56 of a second ahead of the man who also took the fastest lap of the race on the last lap of the race and have been consistently doing so. Hannes Schlegel, after suffering drama on lap 1, returns up to the runner-up step on the overall podium. Fredrik Larsson started 6th and finishes in P3 ahead of Gianluca Iliano, who started 7th, finished in 4th. James Malaire rounds out the top 5, and it's a Beezer 1-2. Frank Beezer becomes the 3rd different winner. So round 1 at Silverstone, it was Daniel Dixon, Tyler Gilbert at the Hungaroring, and Frank Beezer takes the win in the AM class ahead of Jacob Beezer. Adrian Kullerside takes 8th place ahead of Arturo Mayorga, with Eric Magnusson hopefully now taking the lead in the standings after placing 3rd in the class. Tyler Gilbert out on lap 7, having retired, having had dramas at multiple points during the race, including the moment out of turn 14 where he lit the rear tyres up, spun the car around, and there were 3 wheels on that wagon. Daniel Dixon finishing behind Derek Miller in 12th and 11th, respectively. Alexander Shanna retiring on lap 38. And that is the conclusion of the 3rd round of the iFormula Super Formula Series here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. James, a bit more of a steadier race in comparison with the dramas that we had at the Hungaroring, but still very much the case that the first 7 to 10 laps were quite literally fraught with 2 safety car periods, multiple incidents, multiple cars needing to go into the pit lane. It was a difficult one to see whether it would calm down quickly. And the minute Barbiero got into the race lead, it was all said and done.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I think that was the thing. It was the safety cars right at the beginning killed people, and they've got to realise that they can't really do that straight off the bat. They've got to be looking at the fact that, you know, it's a race. It's not a quick 2-minute sprint. It's nothing like that. It is a race, and there was a lot of time, and just to have 2 safety cars right at the beginning, it was all just a little bit messy for me.
Okay, let's start our round of interviews here for round 3 of the iFormula League Super Formula Series round 3 here at Barcelona. Let's bring in our 3rd place finisher from Denmark, Frederick Larsen, finishing, having started 6th on the road, finishing 4.8 seconds behind our eventual race winner. Let's see if we can drag him in. I hope.
There you go.
So, Frederick Larsen, good afternoon. How are you? Or good evening, thereof.
Very nice, very nice, very good, very good.
An interesting qualifying. You started on the outside, well, on P6, but to get a podium after a little bit of chaos and carnage in the opening 8 laps, where we had 2 safety car periods. You must be pleased with that one.
Yeah, it was, because I kind of figured during like the end of the second safety car period that I probably should have pitted, just so I would get that out of the way, but I didn't. So that kind of messed up a lot of stuff, because I think if I would have pitted, I probably would have won. But I don't know, obviously. But yeah, that was a mistake from my side. But I ended P3 anyway, so that was nice. Stayed out of most of the trouble.
Yeah, you were also running up as high as P2 behind Marion for quite a bit of the race as well. But Hannes started to close in quite a lot. The number 90 had quite a lot of pace. It was a bit of a dramatic moment where we thought you'd both come to strife, and we found that Hannes had actually lost it on the inside of turn 10, and you had to avoid him as he was pirouetting. But you let him back through. Was the plan was just to try and go for the attack and see if you could close on him? But Hannes had absolutely he had alien-esque pace, setting the fastest lap of the race on lap 44.
Yeah. I think he was the quickest decision, and I was also kind of happy he got behind Marion after he pitted, because I thought maybe they can fight and maybe I can get a lucky position or something like that. But that didn't happen, unfortunately. But yeah, I think he was the quickest around the track, and then I think I was a tiny bit quicker than Marion, but the dirty air was just ruining everything when you got within that around that second. So it was kind of difficult to pass him.
And also, this means you've actually got some points on the board for the first time this season as well. That's a pretty good feeling to have. What are your thoughts going into Circuit of the Americas next week for round 4?
Yeah, Circuit. I don't even own that track, so that is gonna be first time driving on it, so I have no clue at all. I'll hope for top five. Top 5. Yeah.
Well, Frederick Larsen, thank you very much for jumping in with us, and well done today. Good luck next week for round 4.
Thank you.
Okay, big thank you to Frederick there, having a chat with us. Let's bring in our runner-up, who was on the pace and also set the fastest lap of the race multiple times, including the fastest lap of the race with a 1:20.875. Hannes Schlegel, good to have you with us. A bit of a topsy-turvy race for you today, especially with what happened in turn 1.
Hey guys, what's going? Yeah, that race was crazy from the start. There was a crash, a pileup in turn 4, I believe. I don't know what happened there. I think we went in 3 wide or something. But yeah, you have on fast repair, and thank God for the safety car. And then the second safety car start was, as expected, a bit chaotic. And I don't know where that pace comes from. Usually Marion and those guys are faster than, like, way faster than me. And I don't know, I just kind of clicked. You know, I had confidence going out of the corners on a throttle, and something just clicked today.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at this as a comparison. Your fastest lap of the race, a 1:20.875. Marion's fastest lap was a 1:21.395, so a considerable amount quicker. Was it a case of with the, as you said, something clicked? Did you think that if you had a couple more laps, that maybe the move for the lead would have been on?
I think so, yeah. And I spun like 10 laps with 10 laps to go. So I tried to close the gap to Marion again. Didn't know it was gonna work, but I knew he wasn't pushing 100% there at the end, and I was. So yeah, but I'm so happy with P2, especially with the pace that I had, and I'll take that.
Of course, that still means that it's quite close between you and Marion going into round 4 at Kota. How are you feeling going into what's going to be a very, very different circuit? A lot longer, a lot more fast flowing corners, especially coming down from the top of the hill at turn 1 into that fast, twisty section that sort of mimics Silverstone a little bit. How do you fancy your chances?
0, because I won't make that race.
Okay.
But I love the track. I think it's gonna be great racing there. I hope the field is gonna be as big as today or bigger, because that's for some really exciting racing.
Cool. So I take it we'll see you back at Interlagos for round 5 then, is that right?
Yeah, right.
Brilliant. Well, Hannes, well done today. Thanks for talking to us. Anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Congrats to Marion. He's super fast. He deserves this win. Congrats to Gianluca, my teammate, on a good race. And thanks to you guys. Thank you, Alex, for doing this. You guys are doing an amazing job.
Thank you very much, Hannes. We'll catch up with you at round 7 on the 17th in a couple of weeks.
See you guys.
And last but no means least, well, back-to-back victor in the Super Formula Series, Marion Barbiero. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a tough race.
Now, I've got a question that I need to ask you.
Sure.
And it stems back from the Hungaroring a couple of weeks ago. Were you the only one that did a practice start in your grid position on the start-finish straight? Because again, for the second race in a row, you catapulted up the order from 5th to 2nd by the inside of turn 1.
Yeah, I just in the warm-up I just went to my grid position to the 5th place, and I just tried to imagine the race starting from there, and did one race start. And also I wanted to check the grip limits in turn 1. So I know I'm quite quick on this car with the race starts, but in both races in Hungaroring and Silverstone, I messed up turn 1, so I went very wide. So this time I just wanted to see what's the breaking point on cold tires, actually, starting from that distance. And yeah, it wasn't the exact same because I did one outlap before, but it gave me a rough idea of where that break point might be. So yeah, I was quite lucky with the race start again, because if you saw, James Moller had a good start as well, but he was blocked from the guy in front. So he was trying to steer left, and I was trying to steer right initially. So both of us were going into each other. So I had to lift and then go on the left. So I lost a bit on the race start, but I'm so glad that we didn't touch there.
Yeah, and also want to talk to you about your move on Derek Miller on the restart, because we saw the safety car go in. Derek was backing up the field, and you decided to do the utmost of like sends up the inside. I thought, hang on a second, please don't hit the grass, and you launched up the inside. Unfortunately, Derek got collected by Tyler when Tyler ran a little bit wide coming out of turn 1, and then just collected Derek and put him in the barriers.
Wow.
That was from that perspective. How did it feel when you got that move done on the inside of Derek, despite what happened behind you?
Well, to be honest, I didn't have time to look in the mirrors to see what happened. I will just check the replay. But I saw that Derek had a very wrong restart of the safety car, because he, in my opinion, I think he should have send it a bit earlier, but then after we just already took the corner, it was quite easy for me to just look at his car and then see whenever he's going to put the power down. So because I thought I had a slight advantage on the start, and I also used the overtake button to gain a bit more of an advantage, and also I knew that he qualified pole, right? So he was 5/10 quicker than me in qualifying, that I have to try to challenge him, because otherwise I won't see him again in the race. So I know it's tough for him because he's very quick, and I hope I didn't force him too much there. I just have to check the replay, but I just wanted to take my only chance to try to win this race, because otherwise it would have been very, very difficult with someone half a second quicker than you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was in my honest opinion, it was quite a fair move. You know, you threaded the eye of the needle, sent it up the inside. Derek gave you room, but like I said, as you were saying, you're gonna have to check the replay. But yeah, it was very, very close. But congratulations, back-to-back race winner. Are we going to see you next week trying to go for the three-peat?
We'll try, but it's a track that I never driven before. Even though I watched a lot of F1 and that track is insane, I've never driven it with any car in iRacing or any other sim. So it will be like a learning thing. I will take it more like a practice for the future races. So no pressure here. I will just try to have fun, and if I will be in a spot to win the race, I will take it. But if not, I will just try to get more familiar with that track.
Brilliant. Marion, anyone you want to say thank you to before we let you go?
I want to shout out Hans. He was very quick. He could have won today's race. I was a bit more lucky than him, but he had incredible pace around this track. Even though I thought that this track I'm quite good, he was amazing, and it was incredible. The last laps, I honestly thought that he will get me, but shout out to him. It could have been his race, and looking forward to race him more this season. He's very quick.
Brilliant. Marion Barbiero, thank you so much for your time. Well done. We'll see you next week for the US Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas. Well done today.
Thank you. See you, and thank you a lot for doing this broadcast. They are top-notch.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to Marion Barbiero. Well, James, good to hear from our top three overall. Final thoughts before we wrap things up today?
Very interesting racing, but I think they've got to look at the first couple of laps. I think that needs to be some form of look at that point. Not going to lie, wasn't the greatest of show, but them guys over the first 6 laps, I think over 8 laps, we spent 95% of them under caution. But the rest of the racing's been good, and yeah, going forward, looking forward to seeing Kota. It should be an interesting one in these cars.
Indeed. Well, that's it from us here on the JP Broadcasting Network. Don't forget, we've got iFormula League F3 tomorrow afternoon, and then we've got IGP Formula 3 tomorrow evening. So that's it from James Parfitt. My name's been Alex Goldschmidt. You've been watching a JP Broadcasting production from the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. We'll see you next time. If in doubt, flat out, goodbye.
Thank you.